All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about working with a lease. So being new agents, most of you here and out in Zoom land, um, it's probably going to be the first clients you're going to deal with, maybe a tenant, right? In most cases, I wouldn't say landlord, but mostly tenant. But we're going to talk about what's entailed when you get a lease listing. What do you do? How do you launch the lease listing? What to expect? And then we're going to go into working with the tenant. And when you're working with a tenant, what do you do? What do you ask? What do you say? So let's move on here. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask. We have Tommy here. He works with our property management division, and they deal with a lot of leases. Him and Brian. So I'm going to ask him to chime in if there's anything he wants to throw in there because he deals with leases on a daily basis. So here we go. What you're going to learn. Tips to launching your lease listing, like I had mentioned. Steps to take when working with the tenant. Applications, reports, and supporting documentations, the documents necessary to submit your application package to the listing agent. And strategies to make your application more appealing, right? There's only so many lease listings out there, and there's probably tons of tenants that are applying for the same listings. How is your application packet going to stand out amongst everybody else's? Right? Let's move on. So working with leases helps build confidence. When you're a new agent, straight back there. So when you're a new agent, there's I think a little lack of confidence because you don't know what to ask, you don't know what to say. But it helps build confidence because you're showing listings. It gives you experience in communicating with other agents. So let's say you want to show your tenant a few properties. You're going to have to reach out to the listing agent, depending on what the showing instructions are in the MLS. And I'm going to show you an example of that. You might have to call the listing agent and say, hey, schedule the appointment or ask certain questions. And at first, you're going to be timid. You're inexperienced. You don't know what to ask. But you're going to get to a point after working with a few leases that you're going to feel comfortable calling the listing agent and asking them information about, pets or, whatever the case may be, but just asking different questions.
Morning. Good morning, everybody. Since you're here today, I thought I'd let you know that Carl, he's been promoted to sales manager, so we're going to make that formal announcement today. We're gonna have a party on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We're having another party.
We're having lunch on Tuesday to celebrate it, so that's
Awesome.
pretty sweet, man. Congrats. So communicating with other agents, right? So that's important because you're dealing with other agents, right? You have to build a rapport. You might build relationships with other agents. They're going to know who you are. You're going to know who they are. You're going to know who to stay away from or how to talk to the specific agents, right? There might be some agents that they don't want to look at a young person. They want to double into everything and they don't even, but you still have to submit your application, right? But you go into it knowing maybe this is something you let your client know, hey, just to let you know, this agent doesn't really accept other people's offers, but so don't get your hopes up. We're going to try to get this right. Scheduling showings like we mentioned, and then even showing properties, right? The scheduling of showing properties is, I think there's like an art to it because you have to try to schedule the showings with the agents, but at the same time, map it out so that you can hit each property and maybe separate them 30 to 45 minutes apart. So if you schedule one at noon on Saturday, maybe the next one's going to be either at 12:30 or 12:45, depending on how long it's going to take to show the property. Because you're there at the property, you're opening the lockbox. You have to make sure that, give yourself enough time in case there's any issues with that. And you're going to show the property, answer any questions that the tenant might have, and then have enough time to drive to the next property. So when you're scheduling this, like I said, it's kind of an art. So make sure you give yourself enough time for the showing, any questions, and then driving over to the next property. And then, and opening the lock boxes. But you also get experience in showing properties, right? Because these are tenants, and it's probably going to be anywhere from $3,500 to $6,000 or $7,000 a month that they're going to be spending on these properties, right, for rent. But you're getting experience and, like I said, opening the lockbox, showing the property, walking in and saying, oh, here's the master bedroom. And oh, by the way, this has a tankless water heater, whatever it is, you're showing the property, but you're building confidence walking through that property, right? And you're gonna have many properties you're gonna show, so the more you show, the more comfortable you're gonna be actually showing the properties, talking to your clients. And another thing that it gives you experience in is working with zip forms and digital signatures, right? Because eventually, if you get accepted, the listing agent's gonna send you the landlord's disclosures and the actual lease agreement to sign for your client to sign. So unless you're gonna meet your client in person where they can just sign in person, you're gonna send it out for digital signatures. So you get to use zip forms, set it up for your client to sign digitally, and that's experience, right? So the more experience you have doing these things, let me see if there's another one, hold on. Yeah, and submitting offers or applications in this case. This would be the equivalent of submitting an offer on a property for sale. But preparing the actual application packet and sending it and being confident that it's a nice packet, right, with all the documentation that's required. And again, different agents, listing agents are gonna ask, they might ask for different documents, right? For instance, one agent might ask for the application, credit report, last two bank statements, last two pay stubs for each adult, for each person that's working. One of them might ask for last year's tax return. Someone might ask for, you know, I don't know, what's another example of something that is not normal but people ask for?
Requesting ID at certain points of the or at the application process.
Yeah.
A lot of agents will ask for it up front.
Yeah.
When it's really only necessary to prove identity when you move in.
Yeah.
So we know that you shouldn't be submitting IDs, but to get that lease, you might have to.
And the
submit-
reason why the ID thing is a no-no is because they might discriminate. They might see the ID and say, oh, this person's not the color that we want living in this house. Or they're not the gender or the whatever we want living in this house. So when they ask for ID, I'd be careful with that. It's not necessary.
You
Yeah.
also get a lot of relocation clients.
Yeah.
So then they won't have the last two W-2s because they haven't started their work yet. And then their tax returns are from another company, probably. So then you ask for a letter of employment. And then they call the company to verify what their offer was.
There you go. All right, so when you get a lease listing, let's say, pre-launch. Someone calls you up and says, hey, I'm thinking about leasing my property, can you help me lease the property? So these are some of the things you're gonna need to do. Research the pricing in the area. What are the market rents for the 3-bedroom? Let's say this is a 3-bedroom we're researching. What are the market rents for the recently closed 3 bedrooms in that neighborhood? You're gonna have an idea, right? And there's gonna be a trend, maybe that's, you know, 4,500, between 4,500 and 4,700. Right, so then you have an idea of what the market rents are, and you discuss it with the client. Agree to a list price and a security deposit. Agree to a total commission, how much are they gonna pay you? And this is all gonna be, I gave you guys a copy of the lease, is that the lease agreement or is that the lease listing agreement?
Lease agreement.
Okay, lease agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the lease listing agreement is gonna have a field for the amount of what the rent's gonna be, the security deposit, how much they're paying you in commission, how long the term of the lease is gonna be, and so forth. Discuss what the landlord pays for and what the tenant pays for as far as utilities. Is the landlord gonna pay for water? Are they gonna pay for water and trash? Is the tenant gonna be, does the tenant have to pay for it, right? These are things that you have to discuss with the landlord. Because when you enter this into the MLS, there's gonna be fields that you fill out that to let other agents know what the landlord's gonna pay for and what they're not gonna pay for. And then get the lease listing agreement signed. So you have this lease listing agreement signed. Now you're ready to go on the market, but there might be a few things you have to do before you enter it into the MLS. For instance, get your for sale sign. So the for sale sign, as you can see, is the bottom one. It's just standard. It has the company logo. It's gonna have your name, your phone number, your jury license number, but it doesn't say for sale or for lease. And that's where you would buy a sign writer. And the sign writer is just a little rectangle sign that says either for sale or for lease that you attach to the top of your for sale sign, even though it's not literally a for sale sign, right? Just your sign. So you can purchase these signs and sign writers at ressforsigns.com. And make sure, again, that it says Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties. not Coldwell Banker Realty or Coldwell Banker Residential, we're Coldwell Banker Platinum Properties. So when they send you the proof, make sure that it has our company name on there. But again, you could buy a rider that says, for lease, a signed rider that says for sale. I would have both of them, why not, right? In case you get a listing, a lease listing or one for sale, they have some that say duplex, triplex, so you could use the same sign, but just change the sign rider on top to inform, everybody as to what the property is. Any questions on this? All right, so we have the lease listing, we went out and bought the sign, and we're gonna post in the front of the home. And also, another thing to keep in mind is that different communities are gonna have different sign restrictions. So you can call the sign company, tell them where the listing is going to be, and they'll tell you if there's a specific sign that the HOA requires. The example I give is Turtle Rock, they have these little blue square signs that all the realtors have to use, doesn't matter what company you're with, where it has your name, phone number, DRE license number, your company logo, but it's still the same size that all the realtors, no matter what company you're with, uses. So make sure you call RESS to see if there's a sign restriction. Install and activate the Super eKey app on your phone. Make sure you get the lockbox. The lockbox can be programmed to allow agents to show the property from a specific time to a specific time, right? So maybe your client, the landlord, I don't know why you wouldn't want it, but who knows? Let's say they only want showings between 10 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. You could set the lockbox to only allow showings between that time. Anyone trying to open the lockbox after those hours or outside those hours are not going to be able to open the lockbox. So that's something you can do there. But again, the lockbox gives agents access to the property. So if they're going to show the property to their clients, they use the Super eKey app, as you can see here on the screen on your phone. You hit the button to access key, enter your code, and then open the lockbox. Pull out the key, open the property, show the property. When you're finished showing the property, put the key back in the little tray, put that tray back in the lockbox, and you're off. And keep in mind that the listing agent will know who showed the property, because when you open the lockbox, it recognizes who you are, and it tells the agent, hey, Cameron's at the property right now, right? Schedule a photographer or take photos yourself. For leases, before it was common that the agents just took pictures of the property, but now they're getting spoiled. You have to pay for pictures, for professional pictures. There's some photographers, the one that we recommend, I don't know if it's on here. No, it's not, previewfirst.com. And I think they charge like $250 or something for photos. You can schedule it on the website, they go out, take photos, and then they email you when they're ready. And you can just log in and download the photos and upload them to the MLS. But if you take pretty good pictures, most iPhones now, most smartphones take pretty good pictures. So if you're confident that you can take pretty good pictures, you just do that, right? Yes,
Is that on your CB desk to log in?
What?
To get the photographer?
no, it's, the website is
Internet?
previewfirst.com.
Okay, because I spoke to them and they said, well, go on your website, and if you go on your website, then we'll connect to your website at Coldwell Banker.
Is it on the internet?
Internet? Yeah, is
No.
it on one
No.
of those?
No, so it's previewfirst.com, and you have to create an account.
Mhm.
When you create an account, it doesn't cost you anything to create the account until you place an order. When you place an order, then you pay for it, and then schedule the photo shoot. And then they'll notify you. I'm not sure what that meant.
Yeah, she said something about the company, you log in through the company and then you get like a discount and you get like a virtual tour with that price, which is really good, 230.
And you told her you're with Coldwell Banker?
Uh-huh.
I'll have to look into that.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'll look into it.
okay.
So now that you have your photos, you have your for sale sign, maybe you created some flyers, and I'm not sure if that's coming up in the presentation or not, but you want to create flyers. Oh, it actually is. I'll wait till I get to that. Now you're gonna launch your listing. So what you want to do is search for previous listings of the subject property in the MLS. So if the property was listed before with another agent for lease or for sale or whatever it is, pull it up and print it out, because you're gonna need that information for when you're adding your listing into the MLS. Because again, like I said during the other class about the listing, launching your listing, the more information you have about the listing, the easier it's gonna be about the property, the easier it's gonna be for you to fill out the form on MLS to add your listing to the MLS, yes.
Oh, no, say mine
Oh.
then.
Search the MLS for the properties in the same track, so maybe it's never been listed before. Another thing you can do is search for other properties, like on the same street or in the same track, that are similar to the property, right? That you can print out and use as a reference, because you might want, HOA, the name of the HOA, the phone number of the HOA, or certain tract information, maybe community amenities, there's how many pools, there's how many spas, are there any parks, things like that, that might help when you're entering the listing into the MLS. So the more information you add to your listing, the more people are gonna have, the more information people are gonna have on it. And then you're gonna submit the listing to the MLS, you're gonna upload your photos, and now once it's in the MLS, now it's shared amongst all the realtors, right? Everybody that's signed up with the board, and they can send that listing out to their clients, just like you're gonna do if you're representing a tenant, which we'll talk about that later on. And then add the lease listing to Zillow. A lot of potential tenants are looking on Zillow for leases. So you as an agent, what used to happen before is Zillow would automatically post these lease listings on their website, but they don't anymore. So you have to create an account. I think it's Zillow Rental Manager. Just type that into Google and then click on the link and create an account, and you can add a lease listing on there. If you're gonna have an open house, and I might mention this later on, but you have to write it in the description, because there's no field to enter an open house date and time. So I would enter it into the description. Yes,
And I'd say Zillow, when we put a lease listing up, Zillow accounts for 80 to 90%. So it's wildly important that we put it on Zillow. A lot of agents just don't get listings to their clients, and Zillow is the primary driver.
and it's
of business.
free to
It's
add
free.
it. There's also a paid version, I think it's like $29, and they give you premium positioning or something, but you don't have to
Yeah,
do the paid
it's not
one, it's the
necessary.
free one's enough.
You don't need the advanced analytics or whatever, just put it up there for free.
When you did the free version, because I've only done the paid version.
Yeah.
When you did the free, like how many leads did you get?
The same amount.
Really?
It's the same amount of leads. Yeah, all you get is the additional analytics, and
But you don't need.
it's not necessary. Yeah. We did the premium one for probably a year before we learned our lesson that the free one is just as good. So, yeah.
And the cool thing about that is that you might not only find a tenant for that property, but you have other tenants that reached out that you could work with and help them find another place. So you wanna talk about leads,
Yeah.
that's great for leads.
It's a fire hose of leads is when you put it on Zillow.
But you are gonna get a lot of people that are not like 500 credit score that might not, but you get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Hey, am I gonna be able to help this person? Not, I was gonna say you get to pick and choose who you wanna work with, but no, it's can I help this person? Am I gonna be able to help this person, right? And make sure you add the listing to SkySlope. And SkySlope again is a transaction management system that you log into. You have to upload a copy of your listing contract. And once it leases, all the documentation that go with that transaction, so that the company has a copy of it. And so you can get paid. And add the listing to Rent Spree. So Rent Spree, for those that don't know, it's a third-party rental, I guess, screening website for tenants and landlords. But you as an agent can create a free account on Rent Spree, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like in a second. And what you do then is you're gonna send out an application link if you're working with tenants. Let's say I have a lease listing and people come directly to me. I wanna send them an application link. I log into Rent Spree. I specify, actually, let me show you. Here. Oh, it's this right there. So when you go to Rent Spree, you log in. The first time you log in, it's gonna ask you for your address and to accept the terms or whatever it is. You can add the office address, you can add your home address. It's not gonna show anywhere. It's just for Rent Spree's purposes. So when I have a tenant, I'm gonna click on here on the top right on screen new tenants. And what you're gonna do is you can select a property if you have one, but I like to just say screen without a property, because if you screen with the specific property selected, it's gonna show that on the application, and I guess it's kind of only good for that property, but if you can resubmit that application, but it's still gonna have that property address on it. So I like to screen without a property, so there's no property associated with it. And who am I representing for the screening? I'm representing the applicants. So I'm gonna click applicants and click next. And then it's gonna say, which application bundle do you want to send? The standard one, which includes the credit report and the criminal and eviction history? Or there's a new one and that's $39, and the $39 is for the credit report. So anywhere that they apply, they're gonna have to pay for the credit report. The good thing about this, using a rent-free credit report application, is that most realtors accept this. It's more common. And if you select the premium one, which is, I just found out about this, they'll also check the references for you and allow for the tenant to upload their supporting documentation, like their pay stubs and their bank statements. Where typically what you would do is you would just send the standard where they fill out the application. They would pay for their credit report, and then it notifies you as the agent, hey, Cameron completed their application, you can log in and download it. So now I downloaded it as PDF, but then I'm gonna email Cameron, hey, Cameron, I got your application, your completed application. Can you also email me your pay stubs and your bank statements, right? So I guess they take it a step further here and allow your clients to upload the documents directly, so everything's there in one PDF.
I have a question.
Yes,
Do they check all that for you?
well,
The documents?
if you do the premium
Yeah.
one, they call to verify, I guess, income. They check the references.
That's
so
pretty
that's
good for
pretty cool.
$10.
Yeah, yeah.
It's worth it.
So, also, if you're gonna send this out, typically, everybody over 18 needs to fill out an application. Well, they're supposed to fill out an application, but maybe not everybody has to run and get a credit report running. So maybe there's a couple that's married and they have an 18 or 19-year-old son that's in college. Well, for the son, you're probably just gonna send the application only. And select only the application, and this is free, there's no charge. And you're gonna click next, and see down here it says no screening fee. Click next. And then, let's say just for the son, we're gonna say son@gmail.com, right? And then you're gonna send this request to the son of only the application. But for the parents, you're gonna send the standard or the premium application.
Oh, because they're co-signing?
No, because they're working, right? So and they're paying, so you have to check their credit history.
You see it.
Yeah, they all live together, right? So
What about if also the son is working or all the kids are working?
if the son's gonna be also applying and paying into the rent, then yeah, check everybody, right?
Everything.
So, and sometimes you don't need him to qualify for the property, right? So there's certain income, like 3 times the income of what the rent is per month. It's kind of the standard, right?
2.5 for us.
Yeah, 2.5, 3 times. So if you don't need the son's income, I wouldn't even use them as a check their credit at all.
Okay.
But then you're gonna click on next and see if you see down here, they're only gonna pay $39.99 per person. So here you're gonna say husband@gmail, and then wife@gmail, right? And then you click on send request, and then they're gonna get an email. And when they receive the email, it's gonna say, something about please log in and complete the application. So they have to create a login.
Is it gonna come from us, like the link from the
It's-
email, or? is
I
it-
believe it's gonna come from Rent-Free, but it's gonna say that you sent the invitation to them. And then they create a login, and then once each of them logs in, they're gonna fill out the application, pay their credit report fee, and then it's gonna run their credit report and so forth.
And then
So-
it goes straight back to you automatically, so they don't have to send it to you.
Right, so then Rent-Free notifies you as the agent, hey, so-and-so's application is complete, you can log in and download the PDF.
If, say you're working with someone that wants to move into like a new apartment.
Yeah.
But they need a co-signer, because it's like their credit isn't good or something. Well, how would you go about?
So it would be a guarantor, and you would also, run their
Send it to
credit.
the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, so you would include the guarantor here, and when they apply, within the application, it asks if you're a guarantor or if you're the applicant. So they can type in that they're the guarantor.
And can I, so because you've done that without a property, when they get the report, they can use that for multiple properties?
Yeah.
They're not gonna have to do this every time they,
Yes, but the credit report is only good for 1 month.
okay,
So you can apply to as many places within that month, as long as that credit report is still good.
Some landlords will accept longer.
Yeah, some,
It's up to the landlord. If the landlord's okay with a credit report being 30 days old or 60 days old.
and sometimes it's up to the agent though, if they want to be stubborn and just lay.
I haven't had.
But a lot can happen in 1 month.
I know, but I haven't had a problem.
And some landlords don't take rent sprees.
Yes.
So have that conversation with the agent representing the other side before you have your tenants spend $40. It might be necessary, for some, it might not be necessary for others.
Yeah.
But you want to avoid having them do the $40 rent spree, only to find out that they have their own background checks that they do that also cost $40 or $50.
Yeah, but the majority of the agents do take.
Majority.
rent
Right,
free.
yeah.
So maybe let them know, hey, majority of the people accept rent free, but there might be a different one you might have to run with a specific person, right?
Yeah.
So if you really want that property, then you're gonna have to go through that process. Okay, so let's get back. Any questions on this? Pretty simple, right? All right, so now let's go back to the presentation. All right, commission. So commission is not the most commission in the world. It's very little you're gonna get for a rental for the work that you're gonna do. But again, you're gaining experience, you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining that confidence, right? So how much can you put a price on that? Right. We're gonna see what the commissions are typically, but hey, I think beginning in July, maybe a little bit later, they might not be offering commissions. Well, actually, they're not gonna display commissions on the MLS anymore. So that's all gonna go away. But for now, I'm bringing this up because it's currently on there. So commission is usually a percentage of the first year's total rent, typically. So if it's $5,000 a month, then it's gonna be, let's say it's 2.5% commission that they're offering. So it's gonna be 5,000 times 12 months is 60,000. Then it's gonna be 2.5% of 60,000 is what the commission being offered. So what is that?
$1,500.
1,500? So the commission would be 1,500 based on what John says there. And if the listing agent is asking for 5%, then that means that the listing agent is gonna get 1,500 and the tenant's agent is gonna get 1,500. Does that make sense? And then once that commission comes to the office, then you get your split out of that. But again, you can't put a price on the experience you're gaining of working with tenants, right? Because again, just the confidence you're gonna build. We have an agent here that I think she closed anywhere from 70 to 100 leases last year, I wanna say. Yeah. And she's just turning, I mean, it's crazy. We had an agent, I don't know, like 6-7 years ago that she had, I think, about 50 or 60 leases, and that's all she worked with. And you know what, another thing you could do is ask any agents here in the office that have lease listings. Because I guarantee you that there's potential applicants that are calling them or emailing them, right? And they're probably not gonna do anything with those leads. Ask them, hey, if there's any leads that you get that you're not gonna accept, do you mind sending them over to me? I'd be happy to work with them. So I would look out for that. That's an opportunity for you. All right, so here's an example. We already talked about the 1,500. But this is the $4,000 example. 4,000 a month times 12 months is 48,000. Commission for each 2.5, then that'd be a $1,200 commission for each agent. All right, let's move on here. So you're gonna install the yard sign, the for sale sign, along with the for sale rider. Install the lockbox. Now that you have all that. Come on.
Hey, sorry about
All right. And next, make the property flyers, make sure you have photos on them because the tenants are probably visiting many listings and their agents probably showing them a lot of properties. So make sure that you add photos to the flyer. And you can create a rent spree flyer. Also, so if you're the listing agent, Let me show you. You can go back to that section where you're gonna email the application. So if you have the listing, you can create a flyer for it. Click on print property flyer, it looks something like this. It's gonna have the property information, and it has a QR code. And the QR code, if the tenant scans it, it takes them directly to Rent Spree where they can fill out the application for that property. So that's pretty cool. So what I like to do is I like to create this flyer and print it on the back of the regular property flyer with the photos and information about the property. So they have the information on the property, and if you're ready to apply, just scan the code on the back and fill out the application. And that is pretty cool. Yeah, so that's what the flyer looks like, the Rent Spree flyer. So advertise the open house on social media. You're gonna hold an open house for it. Make sure you enter into the MLS. Add it to Zillow. Host the open house. This is all part of the listing process, right? Conduct your showings. Try to schedule multiple showings per time block. So when, when you get a lease listing, your first lease listing, you're gonna be so excited that you're gonna wanna show the property to everybody that calls you. And then you're gonna get to a point where you're tired of going to the property because so many people are calling you that probably aren't even qualified for it. So the smart thing to do is just say, I'm gonna be at the property on Wednesday from this time to this time. If you'd like to see the property, meet me at the property and confirm that you're gonna be there. And then that way you're meeting with 5 to 10 people at the same time, not having to run back and forth to the property, right?
Should you tell the people that they probably won't be the only people there, or just?
I do.
yeah.
I want to promote that sense of urgency.
That's what I thought as well.
Which is also why I try and block it into 1 hour, even a half hour, just, I want everyone there to be aware that this isn't gonna be on the market.
Especially for the high-end properties, like.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You don't want people in and out of that all the time.
Monthly 40,000.
Yeah.
They need a proof of fund.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before showing,
No, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
They wanna make sure that these people
yes,
are qualified.
but I have a problem
Yes,
with the tenants,
okay,
because also tenants, they are high-end,
okay.
and they don't want to show the proof of fund, especially because they are coming from outside.
Yeah.
So what should I do?
Tell them that
Only
that's,
to show
what's
the
the only way?
property, they cannot understand,
Yeah.
only to show, to see this property, I need to provide the proof of fund. I don't want that, so, but this is what they want.
well, maybe putting the foot on the other, their shoe on the other foot or whatever, however the saying goes, where, hey, put yourself in their situation. Do you want just anybody coming to the property? Or do you wanna know that they're qualified?
No,
Because they don't know, the landlords, they don't know who your client is, right? But your
Well,
client
at
thinks
that
like, oh, they
point-
should know who I am.
no, at that point.
Yeah.
I tell the listing agent
Mhm.
to Google his name, so he would know who is it.
Yeah.
This is the only way I can do.
But if you have someone that you can't Google, I would say, put the pressure on them, be like, we're
No
not.
pressure, I don't want this property. But I'm facing this problem all the time.
You're probably gonna keep facing it if they. So let's say they miss out on 10 properties because they don't wanna do it. Do you think at some point they're gonna realize, I need to show my financials? Or at least show, they don't have to show all their bank statements, show one bank statement that shows that they can afford it.
Because the bank statement is also, they have to ask it from outside. Because they are foreigners,
So if there's no money here in the country,
no,
well,
and they will pay the 1 year upfront.
yeah, but that, you have to explain
So
that
that's
too.
why they are asking for the proof of fund. For
A lot of landlords are not gonna, they're not gonna entertain the offer if the money's not here in the country. They wanna see that the money is here.
So what should I do?
I mean, what would you do in that situation?
I try and impress upon them that they'll get a wider variety of homes that they can view if they acquiesce to the agent's needs. That they're not seeing as many homes as they could unless they go,
Provide.
unless they provide.
And tell them to bring the money here. Have it in an account
No,
somewhere.
they will transfer it once, not to put it here, so they will transfer it once if they will like the property to the listing.
So it'd
to
be
the owner,
Like 12 months up front
Yes.
and like a cashier's
because they
check.
are, yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Chinese tenants.
Oh,
do
yeah,
that.
and got some properties in Newport that we have similar tenants. But we don't really budge on that either. We tell folks like, hey, we don't want kids in here filming TikToks at a nice property. That's why we have these rules. But yeah, that's hard.
It is.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get clients like that, you know?
Because there are also
Yeah.
countries like China that don't allow you to just transfer money. to
Right.
another bank
Yeah.
in the US, yeah.
And then you're gonna present all the applications and, to the landlord and review them with the landlord, right? So you're supposed to present each application in the order it was received. That's what you're supposed to do. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we all did.
Yeah, generally, with everything changing in June, I don't know how exactly it's gonna pan out, but yeah, we present completed applications in the order that we are presented, in the order that they're returned to us.
And then if your landlord, your client is going to reject an application, make sure that it's consistent with all the other applications they're rejecting, and that the applicant they accept, I guess, doesn't have that same problem that you're rejecting, right? So let's say you have 5 applications and they're all reject worthy. But for some reason, this one is acceptable, but it has the same problems as the other ones. You better make sure that they can explain why they selected that one, and it's not a discrimination, or anything like that. Because there's a lot of lawsuits right now when it comes to that, right?
Yeah.
For fair housing.
Yeah, is that, I think that's a part of the AD now, is the fair housing, the
Yeah.
like 20 blocks of landmines that can get you in court.
And then accept an offer. So what happens is you're gonna accept an applicant, this is representing the landlord again. You're gonna write up, as the agent, listing agent, you're gonna write up a lease agreement and the necessary forms and send them out for signatures for the landlord to sign. Actually, first off, the lease agreement, you want the tenant to sign the lease agreement first, before you have the landlord sign. It's typically the order that we do that in. But, there's gonna be other disclosures that the landlord's gonna have to fill out. You want the security deposit and first month's rent, typically. We'll talk about that in a second. And then you're gonna, upload all executed forms and support documents to SkySlope. Again, SkySlope is where you give the broker a copy of all the forms and documents for the transaction. And deliver the keys. Don't forget about the move-in inspection form. So you want to, make sure that the agent representing the tenant side has them fill out the move-in form. And the move-in form is pretty much, and it's the tenant's inspection of the property. They walk through the property and for each bedroom, write if there's any deficiencies. So that way they don't get blamed for that when they move out. So let's say, oh, there's a tear in the carpet. Okay, there's a tear in the carpet in the master bedroom. So it was already here when we got here, so okay. They sign it, send it over to the landlord. Landlord signs it and agrees to it. Okay, now I know. So when you move out, I won't charge you for that because I was already there.
Another fantastic habit to be in for your client is when you're in the home, at some point during the listing process and it's still vacant, obviously, go to every single room and take a picture of every wall, the ceiling and the floor. Just put it in a file and give that to them as a part of their, when you hand them the move-in inspection form, they also have photographic evidence of the condition of the home, which is wildly important that a lot of agents just don't do. It's too easy. It's probably gonna be 60 photos, just all 4 walls, the ceiling and the floor. Send it off.
It's a great idea. And give the landlord a copy of the transaction file. So when you're done, hand over the keys, everything's complete, make sure you hand them a copy of it. I like to print out all the forms that everybody signed, put them in a folder and hand them to the landlord, because now they have a file they can file away. Or maybe in a thumb drive, but when you hand them the actual physical, file, they love it, because they're like, oh, my last agent didn't do this or do that, right? Because they have an option to download every form after it's been signed, right? So they can do that themselves. And most people don't do that. But, so the fact that you hand them the file with everything that's been signed, so now they have a copy of the lease agreement, they have a copy of the application, the, credit report and everything, they have that. So now we're flipping it, now we're talking about representing the tenant. So when you're representing the tenant, the consultation, right? First, you're gonna ask them, what city you're looking at. How many bedrooms, bathrooms, how many occupants, how many adults, do you have any pets? And you can add more questions in there, right? Just to narrow it down. So get to know the person. Email a rent-free application link to all the adults to fill out the application credit report. So after you ask all these questions, I'm gonna email you a link that's gonna allow you to fill out the application. make
That's
your credit
before
report.
showing.
Yes, I wouldn't show anybody without knowing,
Is
without having this
that's all
information,
and
yeah.
so forth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Please don't, I wouldn't show anybody anything without having this first. They're gonna tell you, oh, my credit's 800, but it's really 500. Right? So you're not gonna find out until you show them 10 properties, you're ready to submit the application, and then you send them the link. You get the credit report, it's 500, you just like, I just wasted all my time. They're not gonna accept this person,
Right,
right? And they can't even afford it, maybe.
and especially also for the city, which city you are looking for.
Yeah.
So like Irvine, nothing for 700 or 750 now. It's acceptable.
But also, like your situation, I wanna have all this information. I wanna have the last 2 bank statements. I wanna have the last 2 pay stubs for each adult. I wanna have my application ready so that when we find a place, we can submit the application.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna show them any properties until I have this whole packet, right? And like your situation, you're trying, but it's not working.
Yeah,
So, yeah, this first. This is the equivalent to getting pre-approved. So like, I'm not gonna show a buyer anything unless I know they're pre-approved and how much they're pre-approved for.
should I be a judge for them and tell them that, no, you cannot look in Irvine because your FICO score is less than 700, for example, or no?
I wouldn't
They
say,
have to submit it for anybody.
I would
have
say, I see, if they had a certain credit score, I like, I don't think I'd be able to help them with. I don't think anybody would accept in Irvine. I would say, you know what? I can't help you. You know, maybe find another agent. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I don't think that I'm gonna be
It's
right.
not acceptable.
Right, because you're gonna waste your time, you're gonna waste their time. And that's what I would do. You can do something, whatever you wanna do,
Yeah.
that's what I would do. That's why I had them run this right away, because it tells you, are you qualified, are you not qualified, how much income?
But you have
don't
to
make enough
explain
money
why,
for,
right?
yeah,
You have to explain it
Yeah.
why, you cannot tell them.
you can, yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe they don't make enough money for what they're looking for,
Yes,
right? Yes,
What if like someone makes enough money, but they don't have the credit score?
we're gonna talk about that. Then request supporting documentation, again, bank stubs, bank statements, pay stubs.
You find out their timeline. They probably have a move out date to wherever they're leaving.
Yeah, that's another good question to know, when do you need to move out by? So now you're gonna email them a list of homes, right, search the MLS. And narrow down the criteria, and then whatever's available, you're gonna email them to the tenant. Schedule selected showings. Show the selected homes. And commission, so when you're looking through the MLS, as of now, remember that it's gonna go away in the MLS, but as of now, this is what it looks like. So when you're looking through properties, you might see something under the commission. I don't know if this is buyer agent commission or broker agreement, I don't know what that stands for, but I would say buyer agent commission. If you see 2% of FYR, that means 2% of the first year's rent, which is what we discussed, right? Whatever the amount is times 12, and then 2% of that. And commission paid to MLS members only. So you have to be a member of OCAR. Another thing you might see is 2.5% of the first year, of the year, which is the same as that. You might see this, $100. Ooh,
Is that
yes, yes.
well, let's see, I'll show you right now. So the $100 lump sum.
Oh,
So you're gonna see first month's rent, FMR, or first week's rent, I haven't seen that one, FWR, or first year's rent, like you see there, it's probably it right there. Lease term, so lease term means if you get them to sign a 2 or 3 year lease, then it's gonna be based on the 2 or 3 year lease, but I haven't seen that.
Yes.
You're gonna see monthly or other weekly, yearly, whatever it is, but that's just to give you an idea, these are the types of commissions you're gonna see on the MLS.
This is getting for July from the listing,
Yes, on the listing itself.
yeah, from the seller, right?
The seller is offering
From
this,
the landlord.
yeah, the
Okay.
landlord's offering. this.
Can't you ask also from the buyer?
You can,
Negotiation commission,
yeah, you can,
especially with those $100.
yeah.
So you can, right?
And so remember though, there's some agents that don't wanna work with leases with tenants, and that's the biggest mistake, because tenants sometimes turn into home buyers.
But definitely.
And tenants, they have a mom and dad or a cousin, or they have referrals they can send you. So the way you treat them is, they're gonna remember that, right? So when they're ready to buy and you treated them like royalty, or you were great to them and understanding, they're gonna call you when they're ready to buy.
Right.
But make sure you keep in touch with them, right?
Right.
After they moved in and everything, reach out to them a couple times a year, maybe send them an email, how are things going? But don't forget about them. Because again, you can make a lot of money with these people. So you find a place that they want to submit an application to. You're gonna submit the application and supporting documentation to the listing agent. And the MLS will have instructions on what documents are required. So strategies to make your offers to your tenants stand out. Before I get to that, I want to show you a sample of showing instructions in the MLS. Let's see, let me click on this one. So when you scroll down, this is 12-year term. This is the commission, they're offering 2.5 for the first year. But also showing instructions here. Please review pictures, 3D virtual tour before requesting showings. Private showings by appointment only. Please text that phone number or email for availability. So this is the showing instructions for this property. Let's look at the next one. They're all gonna be different. Go direct, text the agent, there's some information. But let me go to the last one, because I want to show what they're asking for also. Tenants need to have renter insurance. Please email full rental application package to this email address. Package should include an application for each adult, right? We were talking about that. So a copy of the driver's license,
Ooh.
that's a no-no right there.
Yeah, should that not be on the MLS?
I don't know.
Alright, whatever.
I wouldn't add it if I was a listing agent. They
Yeah.
want bank statements for the last 2 most recent months, two most recent pay stubs, full credit report. So they're gonna tell you what they want. So make sure that it might be different with each listing, but most of them are pretty much the same. They're gonna ask for the same documents. So if you're going to submit your application packet, make sure that you read this before submitting it. Because you don't wanna send something to them and then they email you and, hey, you missed this or you missed that. And now you missed out, someone else applied, in the meantime, you're trying to get the missing documentation, guess what, it's leased to somebody else already. So do you guys understand here, where to find this, when you're in the listing?
Mhm.
Showing instructions, there's no private remarks. Typically, this is where you're gonna find the same, what they require from the agent remarks. Doesn't show anything here. There's no instructions on how to submit the application. Let's see. Show instructions. Property is currently occupied by tenant, long-term. Tenant very cooperative, needs 24-hour notice to show. You see why it's important that you look at the showing instructions? All right, so now that I showed you what that looks like, let's get back to this. All right, strategies to make your tenant stand out. They have 20 different offers and they all pretty much look the same. What's gonna make your client's application stand out? Offer above asking price. If they're asking for 4,000, offer 4,250 a month.
Few months in advance.
Yeah, but this is one way of doing it. So offer more money, right? Maybe no one's offered anything different other than what they're asking for, but ask your client, are you comfortable with offering more money? How bad do you want this property? If you don't have money to pay for the whole year up front, maybe we offer more per month. Another way is offer 6 months to a year upfront. So when you submit your application, also let them know, hey, my client's willing to pay the whole year upfront. And that's very appealing to landlords because they have their money up front. So there's a couple of ways that you can make your offer stand out, your application stand out. Anything else you could think of?
I was gonna bring up both of those, yeah.
Can I ask as well, if a company is renting a property for an employee who's moving into the area, would that normally elevate their application above most other people?
Not necessarily. Well, from our perspective, we look at those, we have one home that we lease to Hyundai.
Right,
And it's up to them how they have their people coming in and out. We have the exact same lease agreement with them. That is, Hyundai, we ran someone's credit, their business account or whatever.
right, okay. So,
They handle that.
so it's to the company, not to the individuals.
In that case, yeah, but I think we only have one property like that, so I almost regret speaking up about it. My brother would know more about it.
So in that situation, you don't know who's coming and going into that house.
No, but Hyundai is ultimately responsible,
Yeah.
responsible party. Hyundai, USA manufacturer, it's a civic like business.
The reason I ask is that I have a house in the UK that we rent out. And when we have applications, when the lease is up and we need something new, and if there's a company who wants to let it, they will always be our first choice, as long as they're offering at least what we're asking for, because the fact that the money's safe, and they'll be responsible for any issues.
Sure.
So in the UK, I know things are very different, but that
Right.
would certainly elevate that application in our.
Yeah.
They also have a legal department that can look at certain things.
Right, yeah. So from our perspective, we would say, we judge every application by its completeness and the timeliness that it was returned, and we wouldn't favor anyone, even though we might feel, yeah, we want Hyundai USA paying the rent because we know Hyundai's probably going to pass the checks. But the reality is we go through the completion. It has to be a completed application. 90% of the time, if you get declined, it's going to be because of an incomplete application. And time limit, yeah.
All right, so the acceptance, you submit your application, maybe you offered a little bit more rent, they accepted your application because it looked excellent, you weren't missing anything. Then the listing agent, now you're on the other side, right? The listing agent is gonna drop the lease agreement, send it over to you to have your client sign it. But make sure you review the terms before having your client sign it. I know that there's agents that just, they forward it to the client without even looking at it and have them sign it. Nobody here does it. Nobody here does that. But make sure that you open it up, look at the agreed upon terms, that everything looks good. Sometimes it might be a mistake that the listing agent made, and you just email them, say, hey, you entered the wrong number or the wrong date or whatever it is, have them correct it. And then once it's corrected, send it out to your tenant to sign it. But make sure you look at it before you send it to your client to sign it, or sit down with your client to sign it. Make sure that all the information is correct.
Yeah, pay special attention to like block 5, which is all the moving expenses. Sometimes they'll try and sneak a fee in there that wasn't disclosed. What is this fee for? It might not be negotiable to get it removed, but you want to know what it's there for. And I don't think it was covered, but I want to cover it. When you're writing a lease, there's this one sheet of paper right here, or 2 sheets, the rent cap and just cause addendum. The RCJC is probably the most important document when you're writing a lease for your client. It reserves all of their rights in the event that a tenancy goes south to get them out. It's just all very succinct in there, and it's for pretty much all single family homes. Just check the box for the notice of exemption, make sure that's in there. It reserves a lot of rights for your property.
I'm gonna try to schedule a class for Richard to do a class on the lease listing agreement and the lease agreement.
Okay.
Maybe we could do them all both in one class, just to show you guys how to fill one out, how to review it when it's been filled out and emailed to you. So we'll try to do that.
Yeah, I could spend a whole other hour.
Yeah. So money. So let's say they're paying the first month's rent and the security deposit, and they're only accepting cashier's checks or wire transfer. Sometimes the landlord will be okay with a personal check. Once in a while, they'll be okay with it. But typically it's cashier's checks or a wire. So if they're gonna do a check, we recommend that you do 3 checks. And the way the checks are going to be separated is, and if you're representing the tenant, you might ask the listing agent, hey, is there a way you prefer the checks? If not, this is how we typically do it, and it benefits you as well. We write 1 check for the listing side commission. We have the tenant sign, write out a check for the buyer side commission. And then the rest of it goes to the landlord for the rest of the security deposit and the first month's rent. So in that example of $4,000 a month, right? And then let's say the first month is also the deposit is $4,000. That's $8,000 total moving cost in that example. and the commission was $1,200 per agent. So the tenant would write out a check, $1,200 to the listing agent's brokerage, and then $1,200 to Coldwell Platinum Properties. And then the remainder of it, what is that? $2,400, so $7,600. It's 6,600 remaining would go to the landlord for the deposit and the first month's rent. And that total is gonna be $8,000. So 1,200, and 6,400, 6,600. 6,600, yeah, sorry, I got it, I have to see it too. Yeah, 6,600. Does that make sense? And that way, you're gonna give our commission check to John, John's gonna write you a check from that. The listing side's gonna have their commission, they're gonna take it to their broker, because sometimes what happens is the landlord says, nope, write the $8,000 to me, and I'll write you a commission check to each of you,
Who said that?
the landlord,
Oh, he'll say that.
and they have the right to. So that if that's how they wanna do it, but you know what? It saves them the trouble of having to do all that, right? If we do it this way. And some agents in other offices don't know about this. And when they hear about it, oh yeah, that's a great way, let's do that.
It's easier.
Yeah, but sometimes, like, again, they might ask you for the full, they're gonna wire the money to the landlord directly, full 8,000, and then the landlord then would write out the commission checks. Any questions?
How long does the landlord have to pay the agents? That's
That's a good question.
What if he doesn't do it?
like, if they don't pay you after like a certain amount of time, like, how do you pursue that?
Small claims, because you have a contract, yeah.
I mean, like, what's like the typical?
I have no idea, I've never been stiffed like that. So that's an experience I hope I don't need to have.
Yeah,
I guess, yeah. Just be aware who you represent, I suppose.
So then what's gonna happen is you're gonna pick up the keys from the listing agent, or the listing agent's gonna deliver them to you, whatever it is, or maybe you guys agree to meet at the property, you have your tenants there. And then have either the agent or the landlord explain what each key is for, maybe the code for the alarm system, or here's the key for the pool, here's the key for the mailbox, here's the 2 remotes for the garage. Explain to them how things work around the house, maybe the friggin' air conditioner, right? Maybe it's a smart one, and hey, this is how you set the temperature. So it'd be cool if they can do that, maybe if the agent knows how to do it, or if the landlord wants to, they can meet at the property and show them how everything works. And then even, maybe the mailbox is down the street, it's not right in front of the house. Make sure the tenant knows where the mailbox is. Have the tenant fill out the move-in form, again, right, this is important. Give the tenant a copy of the transaction file, just like you would if you're representing the landlord, copy of everything they signed. One thing I like to include with this is when I'm representing a tenant, I also include a sheet of, like an information sheet of important numbers, like who the utility company is for the neighborhood, who is the gas company, electric company, and their phone numbers, so they can call right away. They don't have to, it saves them time, right? Also, the number to the HOA, in case they have to call the HOA for something. What parking space, what number parking space they are, or what number mailbox they are, if the mailbox is like in a different location. So things like that. So if you guys do that, they're gonna love you. Again, not many agents do that. You do that?
Yeah, mailbox key, specifically in like a community, if there's a community or a box that has them all, you don't have to talk. Your job might just be to stand there and use your little mailbox key on all 40 until you find the one that works, and all right, it's gonna be L3.
Yeah, but
they would love
if you get that information from the listing site.
Sometimes they don't
beforehand,
even know that.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've been in, I don't know what the mailbox number is, I've never actually lived there, like, oh, great, and then you just stand there like, all right. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this 400 times. Cool,
Yeah.
Cool.
All right,
Do it, and then,
so
We're
again,
assuming the last one.
yeah.
Sure.
Come on.
so again, you're gonna upload everything to SkySoft, so the company has a copy of everything. And then you're gonna give the commission check to John, and John will go into SkySoft, make sure that you completed everything, and then he'll give you your check. Make sure that you get the move-in inspection form signed and back from the landlords. So once your tenant completes it, you're gonna send it to the listing agent, have the landlord or the agent sign it. And then get a copy of that fully executed or signed document, and then you're gonna upload that to SkySo, but give your client a copy of that as well. So housekeeping notes, let's see, what do I have here? Pet versus emotional support animal. So there's gonna be situations
Yeah.
where you're not gonna know that your clients have a pet until move-in day. And then, so there's a difference between a pet and an emotional support animal. Pet is a pet, right? That you have a dog, cat, whatever it is that you have, they're just your pet, right? Just play fetch with, whatever. And then you have the emotional support animal, which medically you need because and then it's not referred to as a pet anymore. Right? So now
No
you,
fees for it.
there's no, they can't ask you for a pet deposit for emotional support animal. For a pet, they can ask for a pet deposit, but not for an emotional support animal. And they can't discriminate because you have an emotional support animal. So there's been times where the landlord, finds out, oh, they said they didn't have any pets. It's like, it's an emotional support. If I knew, I wouldn't have rented to them. It's like, you can't,
Yeah.
you can't discriminate. You can't say no because of it, right? So just so you know the difference, and again, sometimes just so you know, sometimes the client might just pop out with one of these animals and not tell you about it. And it happens.
Also, there are some people who spar certain breeds of dog or
Yeah.
dogs over a certain size. But again, if it's an emotional support animal, they can't do that.
In California, you can pay $50 and any animal can be an ESA. So ESA fraud's huge. That's something that you want to bring up with your property owner too, is this can happen. And that's not necessarily because I'm handling your listing. You could lease this out on your own and it could still happen to you.
And they might have multiple sport animals. Who knows? They
They
might have a
can
monkey.
give this form easily, by the way.
Yes, there.
Is emotional
Very
support
10 minutes,
animal.
Right.
Yeah.
Needs a
That's what
doctor
happened.
Oh, yeah.
To prove it that is emotional.
You can go on a website and pay for one and now you have proof.
I moved a girl into a
So you
studio
can prove
apartment.
that
and
you
She was
created
maybe
emotional animal.
5 feet tall.
All you need is
Tiny.
You go to the
And she had an
website,
emotional
There's
support
websites,
dog
yeah.
that was maybe
Google search
80
and type in
pounds.
emotional animal
I
support.
could ride the damn thing.
Yeah, or
Nothing you can do about it.
Whatever.
Big dog.
I'm not sure what it
Video.
Any question I have,
Yes.
my client move in,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
2-3 months
It's
after,
really
they
just
had,
paying,
they had rabbit coming
a
from
doctor
Seattle.
to sign off.
Belong
It's
to
like
the
getting
son.
a medical marijuana.
What's
license.
gonna happen to the
It's just,
landlord if he
you
finds
pay
out?
someone $5 or $50.
But
without any
is that
sort
they're
of-
gonna, deposit gonna be on jeopardy?
So you
10,000
okay,
deposit.
this is a good question. So he said his client moved in, didn't have any pets, but then like a few months later.
They have 2 rabbits.
Two rabbits that flew in from Chicago or from wherever they
Because
flew in
it's,
from.
yeah, the daughter sent it.
And so in this case, you would have to notify the landlord that you have pets. And then, and offer, hey, do you need a pet deposit? We can issue a pet deposit, whatever it is. Otherwise, you're in breach of contract because you said you didn't have pets
So
and
what
now
is the consequence of reaching on what they can do? What's the most they can do?
they kick you out.
You bet.
Or they're gonna take
Yeah, they
from
can
the
evict you.
deposit?
No, they can evict you. Because now you have pets and you.
Yeah,
didn't tell them
you're,
you
I think
had
that's like section 27 or something, but yeah, you're in violation if you.
But landlord can walk into the house to see, because they have 2-3 months left. if
No,
they
but I
want to.
would hide things from the landlord,
No, but then landlord can walk into the house or. no?
With 24-hour
Yeah.
notice, prior
They
notice.
can?
Yeah.
There's a right to come
It's
into
their
the
house.
house?
Yeah, 24-hour notice, yeah.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
So it's better to let them know, right?
Yeah,
Even
For
3
sure.
months left of the contract.
they're bunnies. It's not a big deal, right? If they're in a cage maybe
Yeah.
or whatever. It's not a
Like
big
they're
deal.
literally in breach of the contract, but for a lot of property owners, I don't think they would care. Or if they're just a rabbit
The
or. like a-
breaching, I believe, is to give false information from them, which is, for example, he has 6 kids and he put 2 kids, for example. right?
Yeah, but also you don't have pets, but now you have a pet.
26.
Section
Also,
26. Yeah,
This one,
Yeah.
but this is more important because he needs only 2 kids and he did not put it.
right,
I'm not responsible for his information, right?
right,
He is
Right.
responsible of his information, the tenant,
yes.
right? So if I'm not in trouble.
No,
Okay.
no.
So middle of the lease, if the son needs emotional support because he has this problem with his.
Emotional support, you don't have to report.
So you get a report from the Google, print it out, does he or she needs to report to the landlord or no? Send a copy, hey,
I don't. do
You
No, from
can.
The doctor, I think,
Huh?
and after that, to get
You-
this one.
doctor, she said you don't need.
I don't think you're obligated to.
You don't need to.
No, but
There's
that
too many
could,
privacy acts in
Yeah.
California that prevent. Like for, I worked at a hotel, for instance, and we had a strict no pets policy, and. When someone would bring in a pet, the only thing we can ask is, what kind of thing does this pet provide for you? And if they say it's an emotional support, we can deny them, but if they say that it's an ADA animal, like it actually helps them, we can't say that they can't come in. But in California, for like tenants, there's so many protections for mental health and like physical health.
It's a lot of crazy people in California.
Yeah, it's like if I was like, if I wanted to move into a house and I had a dog and like it said no pets, I could just be like, oh, I have mental health issues, get the form. Nobody can complain about it because it's a violation of, what is it, like HEPA or something?
Yeah.
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 Cause like it's none of their business what your mental health
So
is.
for emotional support, you don't need doctor, anymore, right? Because she said doctor. you need-
No, there's
I thought
websites,
it's
you can get it from a doctor, you can get it from a website.
I think at the end of the day, there is a doctor's signature on there. That doctor might be in like Chicago, but you have a doctor.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
And you could also just ask your normal physician, be like, I feel more comfortable with
Yeah,
this.
doctor has to sign this person is.
Yes,
Individual.
definitely.
And that's best to make your property owners aware that this happens a lot. A lot of times it isn't fraud, but it is a lot of times fraud, but there's really nothing you can do about it because you can't prove that it's fraud in the state of
It's
California.
more fraud if they have like a snake and they say, this is my emotional support animal.
So
Harder
the
than
next
that,
thing, the
but-
next thing on this, let's move on from the pets and animals
Yeah.
and stuff, is discrimination. Don't discriminate. That's the best thing, they just don't discriminate. Right? Race, age, sex, gender, disability, religion, marital status, even if you're a Denver Broncos fan, don't discriminate. I like to throw that in
No,
there.
hey, it's hard being a Broncos fan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel personally attacked.
Oh, no.
Section 8 housing, you can't reject them because of Section 8 housing. Sometimes when you have a listing, an agent will call or a tenant will call and say, hey, do you guys accept Section 8 housing? You can't say no.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
really?
Always say no.
Always.
I don't know what that is.
Section 8 housing, it's government subsidized,
Oh,
I would love
They
that.
call it a
And,
housing voucher in California a lot now, so they're trying to, there's a whole bunch of verbiage they're getting away from. Section 8 has a negative connotation. Now it's just a housing voucher, and you can be a state employee that a part of your
benefits.
benefits package includes a housing voucher, so,
So what happens is they pay a portion of your rent
yeah.
based on your income.
It used to be just for getting, like, folks that are struggling with their income into housing, but nowadays it's.
So if you get a call, you have a listing and you get a call for someone that asks you that, don't say no. Just
Even
say,
though they will, the owner will reject it, right?
well,
They can't reject it.
you can't reject it because of that.
He would not say, he would say no.
It just,
Oh,
what I
a lot of
like to
times-
say is the landlord's gonna review all applications equally, so yeah, feel free to submit your application.
And a lot of times the denial for the Section 8 housing is because it's an incomplete application. It's really hard to compete with folks that are ready to move in if you're using the housing voucher because everything needs to be approved by the state. So it's just easier, it was an incomplete application, sorry.
And it's like another thing, if the landlord is rejecting only section 8 housing things, you can be like, you can't.
But make your landlord
Right.
aware
Yeah,
that you might get these applications and you can't discriminate on this. You can't say no because, so you have to weed them out equally, right?
Yeah.
Reject it equally if you're gonna reject it, or look at
No,
them.
because I have clients, a lot of clients needs the section 8, so
Yes.
when I keep calling to find, there is a lot, they don't.
They
The
can't say
owner
no.
would not-
It's
but-
discriminate.
Yeah,
yeah.
there is a lot of them, they said, no, section 8. So
Yeah,
they-
that's-
They rejected
that's
upfront,
unethical to
don't
say
send
no,
because you will reject it. So
So,
not to waste time, you have to ask.
any questions?
One that's kind of relevant to that is, so if you end up and you've got three applications and they all have similar income, everything's basically the same, And
Yes.
the landlord then has to make a determination which one they want to pick. They then explain to the other two that they didn't get chosen.
So Rich always tells me that you're supposed to pick first one that came through. If they're all the same,
Okay,
and the first one should be the one that you accept, because if nothing's different,
that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's a perfect answer.
that's what Richard
Or
says.
maybe reach out to the applicants or their representation and ask what the move-in date would be, because that's a material fact, is your property owner could stand to make 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
more rent,
Yeah.
if, depending on the move-in date. It's a good way to break the deadlock.
Like that.
This is it's very interesting to me because you and your brother did another one of these a few months back.
Yeah,
And one of the most impactful things I've heard from all the trainings I've been to was the follow it up. Was it 70 days before the end of the lease?
Yep.
So to me, there's not a lot of money in this. We were effectively getting a confirmed lead that's
Mhm.
paying you a little bit of money for
Yeah.
doing it.
and
That's
a
what
lot
I
of
love
they're
about it.
pre-qualified for you because you've already seen like the income statement, but
Yeah.
what if you just helped a young guy get into a house, or a young woman get into a home that, like, they're young, but like, they just got a job at like Northrop Grumman, like, in 3 years, they're gonna be ready to buy a house, like, I want them to be.
So Aiden, I will email you the application link for OCAR. I'll email that to you. But can you send me an email to remind me in case I forget? Any other questions out there?
I feel like, I can't remember if you answered this, if you don't have the credit, but you have the money. What do you do?
If you don't have the credit, but you have the offer, up front.
It has to be
What is it?
minimum 6
What did you
months
say?
for the lease
Yeah,
to be
if your
enforceable.
client doesn't
Yeah.
have the good, good credit,
Yeah,
or enough credit enough to get the property, but they have the money to pay for the full year, that's when you would offer a full year upfront. Hey, our credit's not great, but we have money for the whole year.
Or increased security deposit, that's another way to do it, not good credit, so the property owner's asking for a larger.
So like for me, like I'm rebuilding my credit because COVID
Yeah.
issues, but like I wanna get like my own place beginning of next year, and I don't think my credit's gonna be as high as I want it to be if I
Yeah.
want to live in Irvine. So I was like, what? Cause I know that like I'm gonna also have to run across that probably.
Yeah.
what about the grantor?
For what?
Grantor, to get a grantor.
Oh,
So
okay,
because they
yeah.
are.
Yeah, you can do that. And if they have good credit, and
Yeah,
But
You-
in Irvine, daily, you can find some landlord would accept grantor.
Right, and that's a lot of folks use that as their way to eliminate students from the potential application
Yeah.
pool, is that we need someone to qualify individually on their income. And that cuts down on a lot of, folks that are looking for student housing. You know,
I'm glad we brought that up. So a group of applicants or a section of applicants that are gonna be out there are students.
Yes,
And it's very difficult to get students to get accepted. Because the landlords, they don't want students living there. Because they're students, they're gonna party, they're gonna ruin my house, they're gonna, who knows?
It's probably gonna be a 1-year lease.
What if one of them leaves and then the other ones can't pay for the rest of it,
Right.
right? Things like that. So just know that if you get one of those, into one of those situations where you are going to represent students, make sure that they have guarantors and then
yes, I
also,
will look
yeah,
at
yeah.
all of them, they
yeah.
have grantors.
Yeah. So, and then, so with guarantors, their credit's gonna be run as well, and they're gonna have to also supply, bank statements and.
Most
pay
of
stubs
them,
and all
their
that.
parents
Yeah,
are
yeah,
the grantors.
Yeah, but the landlord pretty much wants to know that if your kid bails out, that you're responsible for it.
Yeah,
Right, so-
definitely.
And then going back to the consistency, if you are going to decline someone because they don't, because they have a guarantor and you're in your head thinking, well, because they don't have students in this property, well, then you have to decline Cameron because he has a guarantor. Even though we know he's not a student. But because you're not including guarantors, if you eliminate these applicants because they're students and have guarantors, but then you let him move in and he has a guarantor, then you open your client up to liability.
A
Because
good
it's
reason
discriminatory.
to decline someone also is for an incomplete application.
Yeah.
They might be missing, they might have sent everything except for one document. That's a good reason right there to.
One initial.
It's incomplete. You pick this person because they had a complete application and you didn't submit a complete
Yeah,
application.
it's probably gonna be your safest bet to decline an applicant, is saying an incomplete application, because it's true. Most applications, when they're submitted, there is an incomplete.
Okay.
So it's just the simplest and truest.
There was a lease listing I had last year where there was these roommates, they really wanted it, and I was like, oh, God. But they weren't students, they had jobs and everything, and, they filled out the applications and everything and the credit reports, but the supporting documentation, one of them sent me the first right away. And then like 4 days later, the second one, he sent me part of the, his bank statement, but not the pay stubs. And then the third one, we're still waiting, and I'm like thinking, okay, cool. All right,
Yeah.
cool, we might get someone that luckily got someone that was well qualified and perfect and still at the property now.
Yeah.
So the rejection should be reasonable, and you have to tell them why, right?
Yeah, you could say, hey, I like to email them, say, hey, just want to let you know, we've accepted an applicant. And if they ask, well, why didn't you accept, well, you didn't have a complete application, I was waiting, I had emailed you guys, asked you a few times, didn't have a complete application, so we can review it,
Okay.
I can present it. Yeah. So I hope that answered your questions and probably gave you more information that you were expecting. But if you have any more questions, you guys can reach out. I'm here every day.
Thank you.
If not, I will see you guys next week. I'll email out what the topic will be next week. But don't forget to come on Tuesday. We're gonna have lunch at the office.
Deal.
Lunch is 11:30 on Tuesday, by the way, the office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.